Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is Jenna Banks. Jenna Banks is an entrepreneur, public speaker, author, podcast host, real estate investor, and self-love advocate focused on women's empowerment and gender equality. Be on the lookout for Jenna's newest book, I Love Me More, How to Find Happiness and Success Through Self-Love. The book's coming out in March of 2022. I'm sure you're going to talk to us about that, Jenna. But for now, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is such a great topic. I'm so excited. I don't know about you, Tracy.
I'm very excited
about this whole subject.
First and foremost, love the hat. It's fabulous. You're looking wonderful.
Thank you so much.
I have to say, from everything that I've seen about you, read about you, heard from you, to me, in my eyes, I'm sure in Rebecca as well, in her eyes, you are the queen of self-love. And I say that in a good way. I say that in the most admirable, I admire you. I think that from all of your research and all of your experience, for our audience to know, can you define what self-love actually is? There's a lot that we hear about it, but what is it really?
Oh, that's a very complex question and a very complicated answer. Obviously it's loving yourself, which, seems simple enough. I think anyone watching this or listening today would probably think, sure, I love myself. But, let me ask you this. When you think of who is it that are the highest priorities in your life, especially as women, right? If we think, oh, okay, let me list off who's my highest priority. Okay, my kids, my husband, my this, my that. Where do you fall on that list? If you can't say number one, oh, myself, number one, that's not self-love. I am my highest priority. I look out for myself. Number one, you have to put on that oxygen mask first in order to help anyone else. Right? It's like that old saying goes, but it's so true. But we forget about that. We forget about ourselves. We think we should be loving everybody else. But the truth is, when you love yourself more, and that's the name of my book, I Love Me More. When you love yourself more than anybody else, you have so much more love to give. I promise you that.
Wow.
I like the oxygen analogy, right? Because it's true. You got to put on your own oxygen mask before you give it to your children, your husband, your coworker, whatever it is. So did this come naturally to you? This self-love? I mean, it's almost foreign to me. But did it come naturally? Or is it something you grew into and began to understand? Could you tell us a little bit about your history and when this self-love idea, ding, 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 became a reality for you?
Yeah, it's a long, complicated story. I will definitely try and sum it up in a few minutes, but it is important because no, I didn't love myself. In fact, I came from a place of self-loathing. I was so disconnected from my love, AKA my power. And it was because I grew up, first off, being raised by narcissists, which means you please them. It has nothing to do with how you feel about yourself. You do everything to make sure that you're pleasing the others in your life. So complete self-denial, didn't know who I was or even gave myself any value whatsoever. My value was wrapped up in how well I pleased others. And so when you don't connect with yourself, when you don't love yourself, like I didn't as a child and a young adult, a teenager, I didn't know how to feel about myself, and I was depressed and started self-harming, just thinking about ways to die, essentially. I was very suicidal. People didn't know that on the outside because I knew how to people please, but on the inside, I just thought, man, I just don't want to be on this earth, And so I did try to commit suicide a few times. And the last time I was probably 17, ended up in the hospital in a coma, almost died. And, when I came out of that, and eventually I ended up getting pregnant at 19. I obviously had a whole new purpose to live for, which was my child, which was still not a place of self-love, but at least it gave me the grounding and purpose to, help me live. Mm-hmm. And then, slowly over time, I learned that, to place myself first. It just came from bad relationships mostly, which was a very good learning experience for me, but just saying, I left home at a very early age. So starting to say goodbye to these toxic situations and realizing, man, I don't need to be in these situations. I can move on and choose myself and my happiness. And so every time I did that, I'd show myself a little more love, and I'd realize, this is better. This is a better life. I'm happier. And over time and through bad relationship after bad relationship and realizing I don't need to be in this, getting out, choosing myself, it really was very empowering. And that kind of started me on the journey to loving myself. And eventually that trickled into jobs. Mm-hmm. I know you ladies are very much into business and franchises and all that. And I'll tell you, I was working for an employer quite a while, and I just was unhappy, was very depressed. And I learned over time to tune into my comfort level and my happiness level and pay attention to that and honor that, because my goal was to always strive for happiness and let that be my true north and my compass. And so one day I'm just not happy at work. This is it was getting worse and worse. And there was one final moment where I have to get out of this situation. So I handed in my resignation, and it felt wonderful. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And eventually I ended up, starting my own company. It took me a month or two of just kind of sitting in it, simmering in it. What am I going to do next? Dreaming, envisioning. And I started my business. And man, I'll tell you, just choosing myself every time always paid off in spades. And so that kind of got me clicking, like, choose yourself. Like, it started to make it more conscious rather than an unconscious thing. So it did not come naturally. It was definitely a lot of work and learning to honor myself, but it has always paid off. And now I'm at like the epitome of my self-love journey, and I now get to teach others. So going back and breaking down how I got there was actually a really important part of the process of writing this book, I Love Me More. It was literally spawned by a conversation that I had with a friend of mine in 2019. So just a couple of years ago. And she wondered how I told her a story. She realized, my goodness, I'm not valuing myself. Mm-hmm. And it was a simple story that made her realize that. And she was able to then take that information and value herself more, love herself more. And then she starts telling her friends about this I Love Me More concept. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. And then she says, Jenna, it would be really helpful if I understood, how you got there. And that is what got me thinking about it. And then I started journaling about it. And then I said, oh my goodness, no, this wasn't easy.
No.
It was a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Absolutely. And then it turned into a book. So here we are.
Yeah.
Amazing journey.
Thank you.
I know that a lot of women think, well, I went to the store and I bought this new blouse for myself. So I love myself. I'm showing myself love. But there are so many other ways that we as women may not be showing ourselves love. What are some of those obstacles to self-love?
Well, there's many. One of my biggest obstacles, I'll tell you, one of the biggest challenges that I have been so focused on for the last couple of years, especially when going down this journey after starting to write the book and realizing where I needed to work the most still, was boundary setting. Huge, 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 especially because as women, as little girls, we really are raised to nurture everybody else, to please everybody else, to be the nice girl. But what does the nice girl mean? What does that really mean when you really look at it? Oftentimes it means not honoring yourself. Right? In order to be the nice girl, you worry about how everybody else feels, and then you take responsibility for their feelings. Wow. Like when I came to that realization that, hey, I'm not responsible for how they feel. I'm responsible for how I feel. And I need to honor that, number one. So if somebody is crossing a boundary of mine and I'm worried about being the nice girl to my own disadvantage, that is absolutely not self-love. And so I've worked very, very hard, and it's still one of my biggest challenges, but I'll tell you, I'm patting myself on the back, which is another thing I like to talk about a lot. It's really important to stop and recognize when you do something that you're proud of yourself for. It is a great way to show your self-love. And it's also very empowering. And it also lets that inner critic kind of take a break. And so I pat myself on the back constantly. Every single time I am instant on a boundary, because what happened is it took a lot of practice, conscious effort. Anyone listening to this right now could say, okay, great. Yeah, I can work on my boundaries. Let me tell you, it is so difficult that you have to give yourself compassion and forgiveness, because we're not going to be great at it at the onset. I certainly wasn't, but I had to just take a moment. If I realize, I don't feel great after this interaction, right? Someone does something, you get a boundary crossed, you just feel a little icky. That is your sign. When you tune into those feelings, you honor them first and foremost. And then if you feel just a little disempowered, a little icky, not so good after an interaction, the first step is just to analyze it. Go back and think about it. What happened? How did that interaction go down? Why did I not feel good afterwards? Okay, so wait, they did something and it made me a little uncomfortable, but I was the nice girl and didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But as a result, I made myself uncomfortable. Well, how could I have done that differently next time that happens? And so you kind of run the scenario through your head. And then, okay, next time I'll do that. All right, new circumstance. Someone does something else. And okay, great. Run this. And you just do this little simulation, if you will. And then eventually you can practice it in the real world. And then when you do it, you have to go, oh, yay, good job, pat yourself on the back for it and encourage that new behavior, because it is about learning new patterns and new behaviors. But when you stand up for yourself, it feels great. And that's the feeling that you should feel. You should feel great all the time, not disempowered.
It's so interesting as you're talking. I was raised in a missionary family. My parents were pastors and missionaries, and we were all about others, right, that you're talking about. I distinctly remember the first time I said no to someone. And it was in a business scenario. I have a tendency to overgive and overdo, right? That's all this kind of performance-based love that I was taught, right? You do to get loved. You give to get love or acceptance or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a scenario in business, it was just a few years ago, and I'm old compared to the two of you, that I told a client, no, I'm unwilling to do this particular thing. It is not beneficial for my company or for me and my time. This is just, I said no. The surge.
Yes.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yes.
The surge of power went through me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels fabulous.
Did you connect the dots that it was the saying no that did that?
I did the next day. I just remember the surge to say no for the first time that I recall in my life. And I felt incredible power. And what was really fascinating was the respect that I received from that client by setting that, as you pointed out, that boundary, that they understood this was a boundary that made sense for my business and for my team. But so that power you're talking about, in fact, you have some kind of saying about love is power or power is love. How is it that you say that? But that was an
Your
excellent.
love is your power. And that power surge was you showing yourself love, and you felt the power that it gave you. That's your love and your power. You could either give it away or you can harness it. And I have what I like to call my power container. It's a vessel that rests in your soul, this imaginary power container. And the goal for everyone, but women especially need to hear this, which is the goal should be to be on powerful. Your power container on powerful. And what that feels like is this power surge, but you feel full of life, full of energy. You feel like you can tackle your goals. You feel so much love. You feel love and how do you fill up? You protect your boundaries. You say no when that's what you feel like saying. You show yourself love at every turn that you can. You invest in yourself. You show yourself that you're worth it. You advocate for yourself at work. If you want to get paid more, you go fight for the higher wages. And then you show yourself that you're proud of yourself. You pat yourself on the back every time you accomplish something. There's so many ways that you can fill up this power container. But what happens when it's the opposite? How do we get drained? We don't say no when we feel like saying no. We let our boundaries get crossed. We don't stand up for ourselves. We people please. We look to others to set our worth. We look to, we just give without giving to ourselves. And so we should always want to be on powerful. I did some research on this for a talk that I was putting together. I was like, I started posting about power, your love is your power on social media. And I was like, power, the idea of power didn't seem to really resonate with them. And I go, there's something there. What is this? And so I started to do a little homework and come to find out research has shown that women are actually averse to the idea of power. Mm-hmm. We don't want to say I am powerful. We see it as a power as a masculine trait. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's problematic, because we look at the society that we're living in today, and it's very much a patriarchal society. Why is that? Women are so capable. More than half of all college graduates are women now. We know we can lead companies. We know we can lead countries. We're fully capable. Why don't we want power? And it's because we see it as this masculine trait of having power over others, or being manipulative, or overly achieving, or whatever. And so we don't want to associate with that. But the truth is, we should want to be powerful. If we don't want to be powerful, how are we going to change this society into a more equal society? We need to want to, what I want to set out to do is reframe what powerful is for women. Powerful isn't having power over others. It's containing our own power, the power that we've been conditioned to give away. And how do we do that? It's through self-love. It's literally self-love. Your love is your power.
Jenna, in one of your blogs, you wrote about this really interesting concept called fear of selfishness. Mm-hmm. And I think that really ties into this whole concept of giving away our power. Yeah. Can you talk about the fear of selfishness a little bit?
That's really important. And thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it is, in fact, something I wanted to tackle right away in the book, because someone can start to read it and start to fear like, oh, this sounds selfish, and then put it down. So I wanted to tackle this fear of selfishness because it is literally one of the biggest reasons why us women don't practice it. Mm-hmm. We think it's self-indulgent. We think it's narcissistic, but truly selfishness is doing things at the expense of others. Or narcissism is an overinflated sense of self. They can be demeaning. They are overly obsessed with beauty and physical appearances. And It has not, it's not selfish, and it's absolutely not narcissistic, but it's the fear that we think that it is that keeps us from practicing it. And there's actually in any psychologist, psychotherapist will tell you, it's that fear of selfishness that keeps women from loving themselves. And so once we can get over that hurdle, no, as a mother, it's not selfish to put yourself first. As a wife, as a partner, it is not selfish to put yourself first. As a matter of fact, if you can do it, when you can do it, you will see the positive reaction from everyone around you. And just like you, Rebecca, when you said no, they didn't run away as a client, did they? As a matter of fact, you got respect. They got to show you respect. Ooh, I respect Rebecca now because she has a sense of self-worth. She says no, and we need to model that. As a matter of fact, not only is it important for us to realize it's not selfish, as mothers, we need to be modeling self-love for our children, because if we don't, they're going to just see, we learn most of our beliefs about the world around us from the ages of 0 to 9. 95% of our beliefs are formed during the tender ages of 0 to 9, and mostly 0 to 7, actually.
Right.
So if our belief about the world around us is formed during that time, then it's really so important as mothers that we model self-love for our daughters so we can break this cycle, because what we learned about fear, self-love being selfish literally came from our mothers, our grandmothers, etc. We need a generation to break this cycle. So yes, and it was so interesting about beliefs is that when you believe them, you just don't question it. You just never question it. It's not something that it's an unconscious thing, that this dialogue that runs in the background. But when you shed a light on it and you break it down and you say, oh yeah, I was actually modeled this. I was taught this. Did I choose this belief? Or was it something passed down to me? And then if you really look at it and go, wait a second, let me reframe that. Is self-love really selfish? Actually, it's not. In fact, it could literally change our entire planet for the better. Yeah. It's very important.
This idea of selfish, I think, is almost primal in some way, that if we are only thinking of ourselves, we will be rejected. Yes. We will not be included. So I think there's a survival instinct to it, that I belong when I put the needs of others before myself, right? Yeah. And then this other component, I think we've taken to the extreme, as you've pointed out, right? That if we are not powering ourselves up, right, taking care of our own needs, making sure we're getting sleep, making sure we're exercising, getting the proper food, taking time to reflect, meditate, whatever it is, we're not taking the time for that, then we're coming from a place of empty. Yeah. So we have nothing to give.
That's right.
But I do think it's kind of this tearing inside that says, I'm going to be rejected. I'm not going to be included. I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to belong if I don't put the needs of others first. That people pleaser side of us that all of us have, but I think we as women have in a much larger portion.
Agreed.
And what we're not taught is this other piece that you're talking about, that we can't pour tea into someone's teacup if we haven't filled that, pot up to start with, and we haven't powered up to start with.
A lot of us, myself included once upon a time, until I really realized what was happening, become resentful to others because we give so much of ourselves to them that when we don't get back what we give, we get upset and angry because now we're at this drained, empty tank. And, and we are like, hey, fill us up, please fill us up. And then we get angry and then, okay. And then they're like, okay, well, what do you need from me and whatever, but it's never going to be as much as you could give yourself. If you really, really think about it, who could make you happier than you can make yourself? Nobody knows how to do it like you can. Nobody. Even if Oprah Winfrey were here, she wouldn't know what to do to make you happy. She wouldn't. Like, only you know what makes you happy. For me, I've got simple things. I've got a thing called my joy list. It's just a very small list of easy things I can do any point in time in the day that will get me into my happy place. It's listening to music, going out for a walk on a sunny day, watching funny animal videos. I know how to take care of myself and my needs when I need it. And if I always make sure that I'm on Powerful, that I'm making myself happy, I will never look to anyone else for that. Never. It just never comes up because I'm always on Powerful, on my own, that I'm giving myself what I need. It's really important that we honor ourselves and give ourselves what we need, because when we do that, we literally are overflowing, and you give then from that overflow. And then it's so much more powerful, much more powerful love. I mean, imagine if you're just in this elated state and you're giving from that state, as opposed to a needy state. Like, I'm giving because I'm needing something from you. Love me back, please. It's a whole different level.
Jenna, what you're making me think of right now is that we go through our day doing certain routines, and maybe even part of those routines are self-love. And I actually thought about this when you were talking about watching funny animal videos. However, sometimes I think that we're in the state of doing, and we don't stop and say to ourselves, this is me taking care of me.
Right.
This is what it looks like when I take care of myself. This is me taking a pause for Tracy's cause.
Yeah.
And I think that also makes a big difference when we're cognizant of the fact that this moment, this is the self-love moment.
Yeah, absolutely. How we talk to ourselves. I was thinking about this morning as I was getting ready. If we think about how we treat ourselves, like really think about it, the self-talk, right? Like, what are you saying to yourself throughout the day? Are you saying, oh, you could have done a better job, you suck at this, you let yourself down, or, how guilt, you should feel guilty about that, or shameful, or not forgiving yourself for something, being hard on yourself. Instead of stopping and going, how well have I treated myself today? Have I talked nicely to myself? Did I pat myself on the back for some of the things I accomplished today? Because I actually did accomplish some really cool stuff today. I got this done on my task list. I cleaned my house when I wanted to get, we do go through these patterns and routines, but we don't really stop to really make sure that we're in this relationship with ourselves, which is the most important relationship of our life. We don't honor that relationship. And so if we make it a priority to have this great relationship with ourselves, treat ourselves great, buy ourselves flowers, buy ourselves gifts, talk nicely to ourselves, show ourselves forgiveness, be compassionate, be proud of ourselves, high five ourselves for our accomplishments, all these things, and then we make it a point to do it, it's such a beautiful thing. And that relationship will then reflect on every single other relationship, because I've come to realize that every relationship is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. So if you can better the relationship with yourself, you will automatically better your relationship with everyone else, because if you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive others. If you can't love yourself, you can't really love others. So how you treat yourself absolutely reflects on how you will treat everybody else.
Yeah, you said this is such a beautiful topic. I was thinking just a minute ago, sometime back, a few months back, I bought the most comfortable mattress in the world and the most luxurious sheets.
Nice.
And 2 sets, right? And so when I crawl into it, I feel like a queen.
Nice.
I mean, absolute. It's like my self-love. Did I need sheets? Did I need a mattress? I didn't. This was completely a luxury item for me. And now my grandchildren, when they come, they crawl in it. It's like, oh, this is like being at the Four Seasons, right?
Ah, nice.
So it's that moment. It's 8 hours that I am in luxury and loving myself. And I know that's a very tiny example. And I want to elaborate on something that you've hinted on, that when we give ourselves self-love and we fill ourselves up, we're not begging for it. We're not manipulating it. We're not resentful when others aren't giving it to us. And I think a lot of relational issues are we're keeping score in some way, or we're resentful because we've given and we're not getting as much back, or we manipulate and we almost become, let's call it psychic vampires, sucking whatever that love or attention or from others because we're not full ourselves. And that can cause all kinds of relational issues where this person feels used or manipulated, or codependencies are created. Can you speak a little bit to that idea of the consequences of not loving ourselves?
100%. That was so beautiful, Rebecca. You should be the self-love queen. I think you're the self-love queen. I love it.
Trust me, if you knew me, I'm not.
But it's so true. I mean, I'm in a beautiful relationship with somebody who's very, very loving. I mean, just so much love. But I'll tell you, I am so stable in my own love that there's no fear of ever losing that or doing anything to retain that. That love comes to me because of the love I have for myself. If I didn't have that love for myself, he probably wouldn't love me the same. It's like a magnet. It magnetizes the love to you. I have this really great story. I hope you don't mind if I share.
Please do.
I had this epiphany about that. I was driving to the grocery store, feeling very resentful. This is that resentment that we were talking about a little earlier, because I'd been pouring so much of myself into my boyfriend at the time, helping him with his business, his kids, his housework, all of his stuff. And I'm not getting back what I needed. And I was just starting to feel resentful. And I knew that this would probably turn it. I was thinking, well, how am I going to confront him at home later? Because I'm a communicator. And I was like, all right, we need to talk about this. And but I'm feeling so resentful. And it's just eating me up, this negativity. And I just don't like it when I don't feel good. And then I had this light bulb moment in the parking lot, because I'm sitting there just thinking. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I thinking so negatively about him? What do I need right now? I need to feel good. Well, let's just shut off. Let's try something totally different. Let's break this routine and break this pattern and stop it right now. And don't think about him at all. All right, great. So I did that. Go into the grocery store, just go. What do you need right now? Give it to yourself right now. Cool. I'm going to make myself a really nice meal. I'm going to take a hot bath. I'm going to read a book, listen to some music. I'm going to take care of myself. I did just that, went home, spent a few hours by myself, and I was feeling on top of the world. I felt so good. Anytime the thought of him would creep up, nope, wouldn't think about him at all. And I was just in such a state of self-love. And he came home and he poured so much love onto me. It was exactly what I was looking for. But imagine had I not done, and I realized at the moment, I was like, oh my God, I literally got everything I wanted because I gave it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not done that, had I went, oh, like I need that love to fill me, and give it to me, turning into anger, resentment, all of that. And then him being like, okay, what do you need? And and getting the crumbs to barely fill up my power container, which wouldn't fill it up. Instead, I filled myself up and had so much more and then I forgot about it all. It was like just this total switcheroo. It was like, what? I had nothing to feel resentful about really in the first place. It was my problem. I needed to be given to myself first, rather than pouring it so much into him and not into myself first. And so I need to make myself my number one priority. And when I am, and then when I'm happy, I'll get everything that I want from my loved ones. So it's just, and they'll naturally want to give it to you. It is like a magnet. So yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful. I'm jumping off the podcast now because I can't wait to go take
Go
a
to
bath.
work, right?
There's some self-love somewhere. I'm so inspired. It's crazy.
Aww.
I want to make a list. I want to make a list of ways I can show myself self-love, you know?
Like a self-love bucket list.
A bucket
I love
list.
it. It's such a beautiful thing though, ladies. It's just so, it's so important. And if we can reframe this, self-love is not selfish. Self-love is absolutely necessary. It's just such a game changer, such a game changer. And it's all in my book. It's all literally, I wrote this for the everyday woman. I myself, I had so much turmoil growing up. I had so much trauma. I barely went to high school. I'm lucky I was able to get my GED. That is my highest education level. Now, I did go on to have businesses and all that. I'm not going to say I'm not a smart person. I'm pretty common sense smart. But I wanted, I wanted the book to just be relatable. And, stories are, my stories are pretty relatable for pretty much anyone out there, regardless of your walk of life. I didn't have the silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't come from privilege. I came from having to survive to eventually learning how to thrive on my own. And, self-love was absolutely the key. So I try to give very practical guidance, practical, actionable tips and stories that people can relate to learn how to love themselves and realize that you have to put yourself number one and how to do that, how to make yourself a priority.
I like the tip that you gave early on, Jenna, where we need to be self-aware when something feels uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we have societal norms, especially around women and femininity and what we're supposed to be. So we're oftentimes not tuning into, I feel a little resentful. That didn't feel really comfortable, or I'm feeling a little hurt. We're ignoring that feedback that our body is giving, our hearts are giving, our minds are giving because of norms, for lack of a better way of describing it, or even survival in some cases, where we continue to overgive or put other things ahead of our own mental, physical, emotional well-being or self-love. So I think that tip, and if you have any other tips, I want to hear them, because this is an area I'm particularly weak in. So this is as much for me as our listeners, to have that self-reflection. How do we know when we are not giving ourselves love, or when our power container is on 3%? How do we know those things that we need to recharge? How do we know? Because we're used to just going and going and going. This isn't something that we normally think about, or at least I don't.
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone really does. I do, but that is something. So I check in with myself every single day, and many times throughout the day. It's just a practice I got into. And I'm actually in the process of creating a journal to help people get into this habit to do it as well, is check in with your power container and just see, how do I feel? How do I feel? Analyze it. You know how you feel. So you have to am I happy? Do I feel powerful? Do I feel elated? If not, how do I feel? Write it down. Am I feeling a little depressed? Am I feeling anxious? That's another one for me that I have to tune into. Am I feeling any anxiety? Okay, then let's figure out why. Why am I feeling anxiety? Did I let someone cross a boundary? Am I worried about money stress or what is it? And tune into that and honor that feeling, and then try to fix it, get myself back to what do I need to do to resolve this situation? And those are bigger situations, but you mentioned social norms, by the way. That's something I talk about all the time. That's a big one. It's these social norms that hold us back from loving ourselves and being in our power, right? Your love is your power. When you love yourself, when you show yourself self-love, you fill up your power container, you feel powerful. Like when you said no, you felt the power surge.
Oh.
That is, yes, I love it. But that was you breaking a social norm, wanting to be nice, the nice girl, the nice woman, and saying yes when you really want to say no. So it's just really taking a hard look at these social norms, which, by the way, I talk about this a lot, where there's so many opportunities that are opening up only recently for us as women. If you really look back and see the progress that has been made, it wasn't that long ago that we were even allowed to get our own loan. Literally 1974, it was signed into law that we could have our own credit cards without our husband signing off on it, our own mortgages, our own business loans. 1974, that was within my lifetime. So it's, we want to think, oh, now we have all this equality, gender equality, women's empowerment and all that, but we can't, it would be a quantum leap if we were really there already. We're not. Yes, opportunities are now available to us for jobs and even becoming the president if we want to. However, now there's this gap. We need to get our social norms to get into line with the opportunities that are available to us. And that's where I talk about this whole generational, the beliefs that are passed along to us, these norms that are passed along to us by our mothers and grandmothers and the women in our lives, our female role models. They're taught, we teach what we've been taught. Here's how to be a woman. Here's, you be the nice girl, you people please, all of that. Those are not things that are we're not consciously aware that we pass along these archaic social norms that aren't really up to speed with where society is and what we're telling our little girls, our daughters, that they can be. You can be the president now. You can be an astronaut. You can have 15 homes if you want to on your own without a husband. You can do anything you want to do. We're saying that, but we're not showing that. We're not showing how to love ourselves. We're saying you don't matter because you need to be the nice girl. Be the nice girl, put everyone else's feelings ahead of your own. That's not matching up with, hey, you can do anything you want to do and be anyone you want to be, if we're being taught to be disempowered, to put everyone else ahead of ourselves.
And it's interesting because it's not an either or. I think so often when we're changing belief systems, which is what you're talking about, we're changing belief systems.
Yeah.
We oftentimes think either or. It's me or them.
Yeah.
That is not, this is an and.
It's an and.
It's
yes.
an and, where if I take care of me, then I can still be a giver. In fact, I can give more.
That's right.
Right. So it's not this either or thinking. It has to stop. It's not you or me. No. This lack consciousness has to stop. If you get a piece of pie, that means I don't get a piece of pie. No, we will have more when we each fill up this power container.
When we are powerful, when we operate from a place of powerful, then we have so much more to give to others. And so I want women to want to be powerful. I want you all to say, I am powerful. I say, I am powerful. Embrace the power. You'd be surprised when I talk about this to even some of the most powerful women out there. They're like, yes, I am averse to say, we don't want to own that. We think it sounds selfish, conceited, narcissistic. No. We should want to be powerful. We just need to reframe what that is for us women. That's all.
So we can charge other people up, right? It's kind of the candle lights another candle, which lights another candle, which lights another candle.
We're
All right.
benefiting everybody. Yes, exactly.
So I hate to do this, but we need to wrap up. And Tracy always has one brilliant question at the end. And then I want you to tell us how people can get hold of you. But Tracy, your brain has been going, so I want to go to you.
Yeah, I've just been listening and absorbing, and there's so much that I'm taking in and synthesizing, everything from those moments where we do stop throughout the day to ask ourselves, like, how am I feeling? Because quite often a feeling will arise and we'll just squash it right back down. We won't even give a second thought to it.
Yeah.
So where is this coming from? What am I feeling? What's causing this reaction in me? Is this something I need to give attention to? Right? And then relating that to self-love, like you did in the parking lot. No, stop, pause for the cause. Let me turn this feeling into, how can I take care of me right now?
Yes.
And that's what I'm really focusing on right now in this moment.
I love it.
After listening to everything, and that whole concept of the power container, keeping ours full.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing those insights. Really incredible. Wonderful.
My pleasure, ladies. I love this conversation so much. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about it. I'm so blessed and lucky to be able to do this now. I sold my company in late 2019, and it's given me this opportunity to now be a social entrepreneur and just be in my passion and purpose. And obviously you could tell I'm passionate about it. So
yes, and hoping this passion will be contagious to those that listen to this show. And it's brilliant that you are in a place in your life where you can be within that true passion and within that true purpose. So your book comes out in March. So tell us how people can get hold of you. Tell us how people can get hold of your book, get you at speaking engagements. Just tell us how we get hold of you.
Easiest way, visit my website, jenna-banks.com. I also share, if you want to download a chapter of my book, I share a free chapter on there until it comes out, which is March 8th, International Women's Day. Woo woo, super exciting. But I also have fun things on there, like a playlist I was just listening to this morning and doing a little dance to. It's over 30 really empowering, self-loving songs that you can get on either Spotify or iTunes. So it's just a playlist that I personally put together to help you love yourself more. And of course, if you're on Instagram, that's going to be the best way to also follow me on social media. I'm really, really active there. So you can find me at Jenna Banks .0.
Boom. Thanks again for joining us. And thank you, everyone that's listening in today to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. So we'll see you next week for another edition. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.